This podcast may contain adult themes.
This podcast is for entertainment purposes only.
The views and opinions in this podcast are expressly our own.
When I get to the workplace, I like to fuck shit up.
Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way.
Hey, are you tired of toxic workplaces and the negativity that comes with them?
We hear you, and we're here to shake things up. Welcome to Let's Break Up Toxic Workplace Stories, the podcast that's all about breaking up with workplace toxicity.
I'm Nicola, and I'm here with my co-host Gina. Together, we're going to explore real-life experiences of workplace toxicity and offer a sense of encouragement and unity.
That's right. We're tackling the tough topic of negativity in the workplace.
So join us each week as we explore the various forms of toxicity in the workplace. We'll be interviewing guests to share their experiences and offer practical solutions for dealing with workplace toxicity.
Let's Break Up is quickly becoming the go-to source for anyone looking to share and then ditch the drama and help you break up with those toxic workplaces. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell all your friends.
In this week's episode. Okay, this is quite an interesting episode. When Gina and I originally recorded this episode, it was not the route that we originally thought we were going to go down, and I'm actually glad that we did. We originally got Jody on to talk about toxic workplaces, obviously, and it essentially became a psychology session, and I think it highlights to everyone that it's okay when you are running a business and you're a woman and you're doing all of the things, that it's okay sometimes to not be okay. And I think that is specifically what this episode is about. So it is a very raw episode. I was hoping that Gina could join me for the introduction, but unfortunately she's driving up to New York at the minute, so we couldn't record it, so you get my voice today, but know that I fully support her and I appreciate the fact that she was vulnerable in this session, and she was really, I think we end on such a great note on the fact that, we can become dysregulated so easily, and stuff just doesn't work out sometimes, and it's important for us to recognize that, and it's important for us to be okay with that. So let's get into this episode. It's a little bit different again, so looking forward to hearing everybody's comments. Please leave us a voice message. That would be so cool if you could, because we would love to hear what your thoughts were on this session. All right.
I am so sorry.
Hi.
Good morning. How are you, Jody?
Oh my God, better than you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready. I thought it was 2:30. I was prepping. I've got my coffee. I was like, I should put on lipstick. And then I was like, shit, I'm 15 minutes late.
It's okay. It happens. It happens. You know what? We were just chatting anyway, so we're good. How are you?
Oh,
Hi.
This is a replica of exactly how the things are going on this end. Yeah, 15 minutes late and $1 short. That's really the fucking plan. So how are we doing?
Look, we're definitely having a day. We're having a day as
Yeah.
well. So I feel like it's a fucking shit show is where we are at this point.
Such
It
good company.
is.
Such good company.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I feel like, oh, you're drinking Fiji water. How lovely. That's close
The only
enough.
lovely part of my day.
That's close enough to New Zealand. I cannot remember. Where were you calling us from?
I'm in Canada, so I'm in Alberta, Canada.
Yes, that's correct. Okay. And
Nice.
Gina's down in Florida.
Oh,
Unfortunately.
amazing.
Unfortunately.
How's the book tour going?
It's going really well. We just got back from New York last week. And that stop went really, really well. And now we have a bit of a break coming up. And then the last leg is in April. We do one in Winnipeg, one in Calgary. And then the official book tour is over. And then it's just all the contracted events, which have been, really getting out of control. So I'm trying to remember that I have 3 kids and trying to keep my marriage together. All the shit. It's fine.
Please.
Yeah.
We don't, who needs marriages at this point? We're too
You know
old.
what I mean? Really.
Come
True.
now.
Nobody does.
Nobody needs
I've never needed one.
Mm.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's do
Yeah,
it.
that's all. Oh.
It's fine. It's fine.
All right. Okay. Firstly, how are you? And, introduction, we would love to hear a little bit about you, Jody. Tell us a little bit about you and how you're doing.
Oh my gosh, I love that question. Okay. So, well, I try to remember on the clearest days the privilege it is to walk through this world in a time where I can stay connected to my kids and start a company and be surrounded by really brilliant women who want to have hard conversations. And so in the grand scheme of things, I'm remarkably privileged. And I often talk about starting on third base, that proverbial sense of like, it was pretty easy to get here, to be here, to stay here, to do all those things. And so I feel like on the other side of things, I'm failing my kids daily. I think I should have went to business school as I start to, start my own company, and I'm fucking it up left and right.
Oh my God,
The
this
third
is the
book is going really great.
conversation Nicola and I just had. I was literally just crying about what a fuck up I am. Right?
Yeah.
Like verbatim. I was like,
I'm listening to the two of you, and I'm
a shitty mom. I don't know.
Jody should have joined 15 minutes earlier about how awful Gina was and how awful Jody's feeling.
So Gina, can I tell you a story? This happened yesterday, okay? Less than 24 hours. I have written a best-selling book called Kids These Days, okay? So it has become a national icon about how you should parent and teach and all those kind of things, okay? I was in a children's store yesterday with my family, frolicking, okay? And my 10-year-old daughter, who is the spiciest little human I've ever met in my life, is like, I am not getting that bathing suit because you have a different style than me. And you know what? I really don't appreciate your style, Mom. And I was like, hey, listen to me. We don't speak about things like that. Then she turned around and pushed her brother, who's 12. And I was like, oh, we do not push. Get your dad over here. So my son went to get the father. And he comes in and we are having a conversation about appropriate behavior. And she's like, you know what? If you guys hate me this much, maybe you should put me up for adoption. And then I said to Erin, I think it's time that she goes to the truck. How about the two of you go out? And she says no. She's running around the children's store. Okay, now I am a local child psychologist. I have written a best-selling book. The mass majority of my fan base is shopping in this children's store. There's my husband chasing me. No, running. She's 10. Like, this isn't like a 2-year-old meltdown. This is a fucking debacle. Okay. And I am like, we got two options here. We can physically restrain the child and take her out kicking and screaming, no doubt yelling things like, you're hurting me, Dad, things like this. And I thought to myself, you know what? This is great. This is super. This is exactly how it should be. So I don't know if I feel any better, Gina, but essentially this is what happens daily.
Yeah, I'm just not, it's been a rough couple weeks for this one right here, right, Nicola?
Oh, buddy. Running your own business is not a fun time for anybody.
Nope.
All right.
Okay, so
circling all the way back to you. Okay, so you're an author. And, I know that we have spoken about, toxic workplaces and how kind of you got into this process. So tell us a little bit more about that. Okay.
So I grew up in a small town in Alberta, Canada. And, reflecting on now, that was 25 years ago. I get a PhD and I've written 3 national best-selling books. I have a private practice and I have ran various sizes of teams in this process of trying to build this dream. I'm a psychologist and I really struggle with liking people. Like I want to throat punch people on the daily basis because if you didn't need people to run and make great things, it would be amazing. So I have always been when I grew up in this small town, I can tell you the first and last name of every teacher I had. I can tell you my bus driver's name was Stan Comic. He was a crusty old son of a bitch, and he picked me up every day from grade 3, dropped me home every night to grade 12, and I love this guy. I can remember my favorite teacher. I know everything about her. I don't remember anything she taught me, like the literacy or the numeracy, but I certainly remember the way that people made me feel. And I knew I wanted to be a psychologist for that reason, that if I could be put in a position all the time to sort of allow people to get back to the best parts of themselves, because I think that, when I left that little town, I just wanted to do sort of adult motivational sports psychology stuff. And then I ended up becoming a civilian member with our National Police Force, the RCMP, for 2 years. And I started to learn what trauma in organizations look like and what happens when organizations don't look after their people. We do a really shitty job of looking after the first responders in North America. And we do a worse job of looking after the people who hold them. In fact, one of the International Women in Policing conferences is coming up in New Zealand. And some of the most remarkable police women I've ever met serve in your country. And I started to think about trauma and vicarious trauma and how it messes us all up, because we spend the majority of our time at work. And whether that depletes you or fills you up really dictates how you show up for the people that really matter the most, the ones you come home to. Yeah. And so I decided this would be a great career, to be able to be a police officer and then tell police officers how to be better at their job. And then I tried to get into the RCMP, and then there was a hiring freeze. Thank you, Jesus. Because we don't know each other. Can you imagine me with a gun? It wouldn't go well. And I also don't take direction well. So
I feel like you in the kids store and a gun would be like,
right? Such a good time. And so then I ended up doing a residency in Nova Scotia, which is on the eastern part of in Canada. And I had to do a rotation with kids. And I started to realize that we know less about kids and trauma than adults and trauma. And I fell in love with trying to understand this process a little bit more. So I did a bit of a postdoc in child psychiatry. I came back to Alberta, and I worked for 10 years on a locked psychiatric inpatient unit for kids. So some of the most dysregulated babies on the planet, we put there to try to figure out.
How are you still alive and not like a pile of tears?
It's the best thing ever, because I'll tell you what, when you change the question.
Because I'm a pile of tears right now, and I don't do any of that.
Okay, I'll tell you the answer. We often ask this about other people. What is wrong with you? Why are you acting like this? And when you switch the narrative very quickly to this, not what's wrong with you, but what happened to you, it allows us as a leader, as a colleague, as a parent, to step into that relationship so much more empathically. And when I stop taking things personally or taking on somebody else's story as my own, right, which is not the definition of empathy. Empathy is temporarily suspending judgment and stepping into the sight of somebody else, right, to try to understand. Stephen Covey talked about this for years, borrowed it from the Bible. Seek first to understand before being understood. It gives us the possibility to be able to navigate some of these things, right? And I spent my whole PhD being trained on this idea that behaviorism is the issue. Right? That we got to alter people's behavior. And it is such a farce, because those rules were created for a world that no longer exists. When we started establishing rules about how every major institution operates, we reward the good stuff and punish the bad stuff. What nobody asked, though, is this question around, how do you feel about those doing the leading? How do you feel about those doing the walking? And I'll tell you, one of my favorite quotes of all time is by a dead guy named Ram Dass. He said this: we're all just here walking each other home. And I have to keep it over my shoulder, because I remember this all the time as a psychologist, as, the founder of my company. We're all just here walking each other home. And on my best days, that's my job, is to do the walking in this position of privilege. And on other days, I need to be walked like you don't even know. And it is this sort of collaboration between surrounding yourself with people who can do that for you while you do it for other people. You get to land into Nicola. You get to land into the people you love to remind you that, this is not supposed to be easy, Gina. You're supposed to feel like you're failing people. But here's how I know you're not. Do not underestimate your power. Because I think I
have to stop my video for a second.
No, you don't. This is the part that becomes really critical, is that particularly as women, I'm going to keep talking to her like she's listening. But the issue as women all the time, right, is we have this expectation that we should be able to fix things and keep things together and do all those things. And you know what we get very little of is acknowledgement. And if you only knew how critical you were in the infrastructure of people's stories and people's lives, we get the feedback all the time. Like Olivia, my Olivia yesterday, 10 years old. I hate you. You're the worst mom ever. Why don't you just send me away? Okay. Their job is to lose their mind and to get emotionally dysregulated. Our job is to walk them home, because you see, the chaos is necessary to learn the calm. If everybody acted in line, emotionally regulated, calm, made good choices, used their words, followed direction, this would be a fucking scary place, because the only way you learn that you matter is when you push the limits, right? I want you to do that in my presence. And I am best able to handle that if I'm filled up, which is why we as business leaders, owners, parents, we're the number one priority. Because if we're not okay, the people we serve, the people we love, the people we lead don't stand a chance.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. I think we've manufactured an environment where we've set such unrealistic expectations, specifically for women, and especially women that are running businesses, or women that are powerful, or women that are supposed to be resilient. We've set this unrealistic expectation, and now you've got this, I want to say, plethora of hyper independent women that are just not taking any support, and they just keep going and they keep going until they burn out, and then we have like,
well, we're one generation out. Like, and I don't know if you know this. I mean, if we look at your parents, or I'll just give you my example, right? So one generation out of being raised in a very traditional way, right? Like, I've had a history of strong women, my grandparents, my grandmothers in particular, but they had a very specific role. And even my mother-in-law, she's one of the most remarkable women on the planet, but she was baking all the pies, frolicking with the children, picking them up. I fucking hate cooking. I'm not even a fan of parenting. I mean, I love being a mom, but I'm not a huge fan of my children.
Who's good at parenting these days? I'm fucking winging it at this point.
We all are. That's the point.
My kid had a birthday party, and there was one kid having a miserable time. I was like, do you want to shoot the other kids in the dick with a Nerf gun? I'm like, this is how we parent.
But that's what I love. And then we're supposed to expect to love motherhood, and then to be able to be in charge of our own companies and mother the people that we are bringing up. And here's the thing, I'm not a fan of mothering. I love being a mom. I forewent many relationships because I knew I wanted to be a mom. I wanted to get that, I wanted to help my babies be all they could be. But I forgot about the part that the chaos is necessary, that they're supposed to be assholery-ish, that I want them to push back in my presence, because that is where, and this is similar as a leader, right? If you always comply and do the things, any relationship, marital relationships, if people tell me that they never fight, it fucking scares me, right? Because that's where we learn where the edges are. That's where we learn. And when we have access to the best parts of ourselves, right? When we are better with other people's children. So if I came to you, Gina, and I said, I'm really struggling with Livy. I don't know what to do with this kid. She's so sassy. She's telling me she doesn't want this, or she's pushing back all the time. When it's somebody else's kid, you are so great. You're like, okay, let's talk. Tell me about her, right? Yep. Why shame me? And, if Nicola said to me tomorrow, I can't get my kid to practice. He's going to miss soccer practice. Can you come to your house after school? And I'd be like, yeah, oh my God, I would love to see him. Comes through my door, slams the door, and says, hey, what's for supper around here? Now, because it's Nicola's baby, I would be like, oh, what do you want, honey? Did you have a good day? Is everything okay? I got lots of choices for supper. Now, my personal child, the one that I shoved through my own very personal vagina, comes through the door and says, hey, what's for supper around here? Oh, excuse me? Is that how you talk to me? Back it up. And don't slam the door. We talked about this. You have any respect for property? Why? Because
were you in my house? Are you in my house? Are you actually in my house?
Listen, all three of us have the potential to be the most remarkable human beings. What happens is we don't lose our ability, we lose access to it. So the question is, how do we gain access to the best parts of ourselves? Okay. Let me give you an example of emotional regulation. Okay. This is the thing that we all want to get back to, is emotional regulation, is how not to lose your friggin' mind. Okay. It's the biggest skill any parent has. How not to lose your friggin' mind. Okay. When your buttons are pushed so significantly. This is also the best skill that a leader can have. Okay. How not to lose your friggin' mind. Emotional regulation is only taught in the presence of other people who can show you how to do it, not tell you. Okay. Never in the history of telling somebody to calm down has calm down ever worked. Okay.
Oh my God.
All men
Literally,
do
are
that.
you in my house?
All men do that. You're like freaking out and they're like, just calm down. And you're like freaking out even more. You're like, don't fucking tell me to calm down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the last time somebody told us that we were in love with said, oh, just relax, Jody. Did I go,
oh my God, they're so
God, you
right.
wanna
I
make
need to
out?
relax. Yeah.
right? And so here's the interesting thing. When you bring a baby home from the hospital, how they let you know what they need is they lose their friggin' minds, right? They cry. And the big people walk them home. Inherently, we go, shh, 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 shh. There's a rhythmic exchange that occurs from big people to little person that is universal. Regardless of age, race, religion, socioeconomic status, or gender identity, there's a rhythmic exchange that occurs from a soldier in Russia, somebody in Afghanistan, somebody in Australia, or Coquitlam, BC. If I put a crying infant in anybody's arms, they would engage in a rhythmic exchange in an effort to walk them home.
Mm-hmm.
Because the first sound every single one of us felt on this planet is what? Bum, 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 bum. The heartbeats of our mamas, you see? And whether she's alive or you have a relationship with her or not, your ability to co-regulate with another is in your bones.
Interesting.
You got everything you need in this moment, Gina. We
my.
I feel like this is the best therapy session I've ever done, and she didn't even know she needed it.
This
No,
is true.
I'm in fucking therapy all the time. I just don't want to be on YouTube for a
I
podcast.
will cut you out.
crying.
You know I'm gonna cut you out. It's fine.
I've been in so much therapy my whole fucking life. 43 years of therapy. Like, and I'm still a fucking hot mess.
Oh, you're not a hot mess, mama. You're crushing it. This is part of it, right? We have multiple generations to undo, and we also have a brand new script that nobody's ever given us one. So we should be disasters.
Wait, I have to mute because I'm gonna blow my nose and it's gonna be really loud.
Thank you so much for your service. Thank you so much.
So sexy.
But this is the issue around emotional regulation is that if we have people who can walk us through the hard stuff, we start to learn how to regulate our emotion on our own. If we don't, then we come into our relationships and our teams and our children with only fight, flight, and freeze on board, right? And our job is you can't give away something you've never received, right? You can't.
No, exactly.
You can't give away something you've never received. And oftentimes it is the corrective experiences that we have along the way. We meet good friends. We meet good colleagues. We end up in healthy relationships that sort of understand. We get a good therapist. We start to get walked through the big emotions and reminded that indeed, dropping our shoulders, taking the breath, wiggling the toes, getting back to the best parts of ourselves, they've always been there. We just have lost a lot of access to it because the narrative in our head is we're a fucking hot mess. We're never going to get this right. I've been in therapy for 42 years. Look at me. I'm still a disaster. How about the fact that you are single-handedly creating this podcast that's changing the world, that you have your own company, that you have babies who are desperate to push back against their mama because they just really want to know where the limits are. And they finally have somebody in their life that can set those limits. Isn't that a fucking reality?
Like a mind
But
Good luck with pressing the nuts.
but I think that's the interesting thing, right? Is that particularly as women, and then if we think about when we're in places in our workspace, if we're emotionally dysregulated there, the question of our colleagues, our employees, they're supposed to push the limits. They're supposed to question. They're supposed to do all of those things. And when we understand that that is our job sometimes, although it's exhausting and overwhelming, it makes it so much easier, much more palatable to set into, right? Okay. Tell me more. Here's the 3 questions that I often ask when I want to get somebody else regulated and I'm about to lose my mind, okay? And I know this because I start to want to fix it. Oftentimes when our people are most distressed, they don't need a fix. They need somebody to simply acknowledge them. So here's the 3 things that allow me to acknowledge either my kids or my colleagues, same fucking thing, and my husband also. Tell me more. Now, when I say to somebody that I love who is emotionally dysregulated, tell me more, I 99% of the time don't want to know more. I am doing this to get you to a state of emotional regulation, because when you're acknowledged, you rise. When you are seen and heard, you have the ability to regulate emotion. So I want to make sure that I'm going to use that space before I start to fix it. I really want to understand where you're coming from. I might not condone it. I really want to vape with my friends, Mom. I might not support it, but I want to understand it. Tell me more. Right? Well, I just feel like you don't understand as a leader. Like, you asked me to do all these things and I don't have the resources to do it. No way.
Tell me
Okay, so
more.
what's the hardest part, right? What's the hardest part? That's another question, right? Well, I don't know. Like, the hardest part is I feel like sometimes I'm failing you, Gina. Like, I feel like I don't have enough stuff in place to be able to make sure that you know how much I value this job or you. And I feel like I disappoint you all the time. Okay, so now we're unpacking it a little bit, right? What's the hardest part? Tell me more. As a leader, I ask this question all the time, and I fucking hate this question. What am I missing?
Ooh,
What
that
am I
can sound
missing?
a little condescending. What am I
What?
missing?
No, but how you tone is important, right?
Yeah.
So I will tell you, this happened in my team a month ago when we were starting the book tour. I was like, okay, everybody sit down. I got it. I've now written this best-selling book. I think it's going to go amazing. I feel like we need to do this 8-city tour. I know we've already sold out 4 cities, but here's what I need to do. I need to get on the road. Like, can you imagine if we went to New York and we did these things? And the whole team was like this. And I was like, you're right. They are spellbound by my brilliance. And so then I was dictating and telling and all these kind of things. And I was like, clearly they're amazing. At the end of the meeting, my executive director, we've been together for 8 years. She's amazing. She says to me, you're kind of, you scared me a little bit today. And I was like, you're right. You're welcome, because that's what happens when this brilliance sets off. Now, I went home that night and I was like, I wonder if she really meant that. So the next day I pulled them all back together and I said, tell me what I'm missing. What am I missing here? And then they fucking told me for 2 hours. They were like, Jody, 8 cities in 2 months. We have kids. How do you think we can do that? How do you think you're going to do this? We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the support. And what about this and this and this and this? And I was like, what? You guys, we've been planning this for 2 months. Why didn't anybody fucking tell me this? And you know what they said to me? You didn't ask.
Oh, stop it.
But it's true. We often, if you're the ideas person, if you're the director of things, if you're passion, if this is your baby, right? I will power over everybody. Nope, this is how it has to go. How about? And listen, there are take charge moments as a parent, as a leader, but sometimes I don't have time for the fucking minutia. Okay, I have to make decisions. But I will tell you, they're so much more effective when people feel seen in that process, right? They didn't feel safe enough to ask. You scared us. We were going to do whatever the fuck you said in those moments, because look how excited you were. Look how sure you were. Look how whatever that was. Well, I didn't have a question. I was scared to doubt you. I didn't want to poke holes in the plan.
So, here's a question with regards to that, right? Like, when you're looking at toxic workplaces, is this what then seeds into that kind of negative feedback loop? So you've got, let's say, someone who's a visionary or really excited, the ideas person, and then you've got the minions. Could be any sort. It could be a C-suite minion, just minion of any description, and you've got these people kind of hop-toing because they are too nervous to kind of push against, because they're just not being seen and heard.
And this happens more significantly, the data is clear on this, on marginalized people. Women, white women, do this to women of color exponentially greater, because we hide behind the sort of the experience of misogyny. So we're like, we finally get a seat at the table. I'm going to step on this and at the expense of finally getting a voice here. Okay. And what's so critically important about this process, right, is number one, relationship knows no hierarchy. When you truly work in an organization that understands the importance of valuing people's contributions, regardless of where you are on the theoretical hierarchy, you start to get the best from your people.
Yeah.
And if you have somebody who sort of can lead the way around that and can recognize the importance of not only like coming to somebody who is, on the hierarchy, who's sort of at the menial level of things versus like the executive director of things, understanding that our ability is to lean into each other more so.
Yeah.
Let's acknowledge each other. I can, as an EA, an assistant, I can come into the CEO's office or send an email and say like, I just need to tell you, I thought today's meeting was amazing. I've worked in your HR department for the last 3 years, and I just want to tell you, thank you for being here. Means the world simply equally as if the CEO goes into, stops by the, the office structure and says, hey, I was baking some cookies last night for the team at home. And I just thought, like, I just wanted to say thanks. I know that these days aren't easy because we're also overwhelmed. When you are acknowledged, you rise. And we put so much effort into how we serve people, our clients, our employees. Your number one priority is you, second only to your team. The people you serve for the rest of our careers, I wouldn't say are irrelevant, but they're pretty close. Because if we're not okay, the client will suffer. If we're not okay, the services we provide will not be the best they can be. And we often jump the team, the connection to each other. I mean, I have to say this, regardless of the organization or industry you're in, what happens when a high quality meat tray shows up at a staff room? Right? Like not just cheap shit, but like there's like hummus and grapes and some fucking charcuterie.
I am right.
I love a charcuterie board.
I
love
am
it.
so subscribed. Like, assign me. You will see me. Like, I'm sure you've seen the meme with the little hippo running through the.
Oh my God!
Field, and I'm like, do.
We leave people unattended because, and then the question is, why? Well, when you're acknowledged, you rise. So if you wanted to buy one more computer program, forego that, save the $400 and put it into a couple of charcuterie boards for the next couple of months and watch what happens to your thing. One of my favorite hockey coaches, and I know hockey's a big deal up here in Canada, but one of my favorite hockey coaches said this: you should see how fast I can get a kid to skate when I know the name of his dog.
Oh, curious.
I love that. This is not brilliance. This is something we've known to be true all along. Wow. When you are seen, which means, feeling seen is the title of my new book. And the issue is, it is how do you truly acknowledge another? Not just look, but to see. Not just to listen, but to hear. We are so disconnected in this world. In fact, in the history of the free world, we've never been this disconnected than we are right now. Technological advances have allowed us to not be in the same physical space as so many people. And
my brain is still stuck on the hockey coach with the dog. So my brain's a little slow today. It's not normally this slow. So that's how I learned how to snowboard. Because the instructor was like, mind you, I was like in my 20s when I first learned how to snowboard because of lots of stupid reasons. But like I couldn't get it. And snowboarding, it's about like leaning into the edge, but not so far that you're gonna like tip over and like face plant. Mm-hmm. So this guy was older. He was like Old Man River. He was the instructor. And I was like, I'm on the fucking bunny slope with Old Man River. Like, I'm such a loser. My hot boyfriend's doing like the black diamonds. I'm literally down here with like rental gear. I look like a complete idiot. I'm with 4-year-olds. But my boyfriend at the time, he was real nice. He paid for a single like one-on-one lesson. So I had gotten several before from other people. He still talks to me this day. His name is Ronnie Diamonde. I mean, the name speaks for itself. That's all we need to know. So I couldn't get it. And then this old fucking fossil who had no business being on the snow, the mountain, he said, I swear to God, right? He was like, every time you lean in, pretend you're petting your dog, Bubba. Guess who got it? Just like that.
He acknowledged you. He knew you.
And he was like, by the way, Ronnie Diamonde sucks dick. Break up with him. But then like a couple months later, I did break up with him. But anyway, yes. Sorry, I digress.
And now now you can snowboard.
I can. I don't really do it very often, but I can. if push comes to shove. But how did he know that? And this is out in Utah.
I mean, how do you know how to connect to people? When you are at your
I don't
best.
think I do. I think I suck sometimes at that.
Well,
You're just saying that because you've got a bit of imposter syndrome at the minute. You're just saying that,
I'm just
and
not
also-
doing my best.
but you know what?
Right.
You do connect with people. We connected. You reached out to me and you did a really
That's
good job of connecting with me.
That's true. Yeah.
You
It's
have
true.
it, Gina. You just lose access to it sometimes. And I think that's the point, right? We all do. But when I'm not at my best, right? When I've spent a lot of time doubting myself, and listen, this is part of the game. If you want to grow, self-doubt better be part of it, because I don't want you to think you're fucking great all the time. You need to be taken down a notch. Humility is the biggest fucking teacher. And when I sit in those places of like, okay, fuck, I got some things to learn here. Then I get back to this idea of, okay, look at what I can do. Look at how far I've come. Look at what I've built. Look at my skill set. And when I have access to it, right, there's nothing I can do. There's nothing that will stop me, right? And that's the issue, not about whether we need to build more skills. It's mostly about how do we get back to what we know. And when you think about emotional dysregulation in kids, you know, if you look at your own children and they're using their words and being kind and showing you all the skills that they learned, right? They can speak their second language. They can be very fantastic. When they get emotionally dysregulated, they scare us, right? They flip their lids. Okay. So for example, you're having a nice chat around a brunch and your babies are there, your mother-in-law's there, everything's great. And they're using their words and their manners and they're doing all kinds of things. You're like, oh, they're so sweet. And then your 4-year-old says, Mommy, can I have a ring pot for breakfast? And you're like, baby girl, we do not have suckers for breakfast. You know that. And she fucking snaps, flips her lid, loses her mind. She gets under the table. She takes her clothes off. And then she hisses like, you're like, hey, one. And she hisses at you like a cat. And you're like, holy fuck, she's gone feral, right? She got the ADHD. What's wrong with her, right? Has that baby lost her ability to use her manners, be kind, and speak in another language? She's lost access to it. And my job is to walk her back home so that she can get access to it again. And the more I do that, she can then do that by herself when I'm not there. Because the job of emotional regulation is we're born with it. The only way, the chaos is necessary to learn the calm. And when you're a good leader and you're filled up, when people get really distressed with you, you're fucking shitty, I hate you, this is brutal, you don't even know what kind of company you're running, you know, all those questions come in, then that becomes really debilitating. I can start to believe it if I'm not looking after me.
Yeah.
And when I can drop my shoulders and take a deep breath and be like, okay, tell me more. What do I need to learn? What am I missing? And it then comes a time where I got to decide whether you're right for me, right? But I'm going to make that decision when I'm regulated. Because, I mean, here's the thing that has surprised me the most as an entrepreneur, the friends that I've lost.
Yep.
Touche.
I cannot believe, you know, this is a very special breed of being able to be a woman, start a company and go all in. I will work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm not working to retire. I am working to create a legacy for my children. I am working to change the world. And I hope I never want to leave this. I'm not counting, you know, those, sometimes people have those like retirement calendar countdown things on their phone and they're like only 677 more thousand days. And then I get to, for what? If you don't feel like you're making a difference every single day, right? Do I want to be able to dictate what that looks like? Do I want to take my kids around the world? Do I want my husband and I to be able to golf 6 months out of the year? Yep, you bet. That's what I would love to do. But in this process,
working at the same time.
I love it. And I think I'm fucking brilliant. I'm going to write a New York Times bestseller. That's the plan. I'm going to be known by my first name only, like Pink and Oprah and Shonda. That's my goal.
You might
if
need
I
to change
feel
your
that-
name though. You might need to have like a stage name.
No, Jody. I think that's just powerful. Dr. Jody. It's fine. But how we get to Gina's not
Okay,
convinced.
well then
No.
I'm Gina. Dr. Gina. I just gave myself a doctor.
No, we've already
too. Fuck
established
that.
your Gina, just to.
That's right. Dr. Gina.
Ooh. I feel like that's much more memorable.
Well, yes, because then everyone's going to think of a vagina.
Well, and we do what we have to do. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, bad PR,
Right.
good PR.
You're right, Nicola.
I'm having a stroke. I'm good.
Well, you guys didn't like my joke the other time when I said Dr. Panella if you're nasty. So how about Dr. Gina if you're nasty? Okay.
I think we're getting closer to viral.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
That is what she said.
Oh my gosh,
Okay.
It's a hard game, and I think that's the point. It's a hard game, and it's not for everybody. And I think if we knew that, if it was easy, everybody'd be doing it, and they're not.
No, well, I think that's the thing, right? Is not everybody's doing it, and those that are doing it, I don't know how much of kind of the struggle bus that they're actually talking about. And I think, I know we originally discussed going down like a toxic workplace direction, but I think realistically what we've done is we've actually created our own toxic workplace for, women that are running their own businesses. And we've created our own little toxic bubble within ourselves, because you've got these, single powerful women essentially negative self-talking themselves in this narrative that just doesn't serve them, doesn't serve their employees. And now you've essentially it's your own little toxic workplace within your head.
On International Women's Day, I gave a couple of talks to a couple of different organizations, and there was this quote by Kavita Ramdas, who talks about feminism as, not an entity sort of fighting any single oppressor or even colonizer. It is oftentimes how we have to rewrite the narrative with other women about the way that we show up. Yeah. So many people on this, the expectation of, in this one generation, we can still do it all. We can still pick up the kids, bake the cookies, keep the house clean, and run a $5 million organization, right? It's impossible. It's impossible, right? We're not that good. And so the question then becomes, interestingly, I think the most negative feedback I would get ever is about oh, you were away from your kids for 2 weeks on this book tour. That must have been really difficult. Hey, how did your husband handle it?
And he's a parent.
Just fine.
He is really amazing, and he fucking ordered out a lot, but so do I, because I fucking hate to cook. So things are going the expectation of all of those things. We've got to rewrite that script, and people aren't being assholery-ish because I think necessarily they are. We're really questioning that narrative. Can we do this? Is this the role of women? Why do women need a seat at the senior leadership table now? I will tell you right now, it's going to be life-changing, life-saving to have women on boards, to run organizations, because what we need right now is an emotional language. Highest rate of suicide in North America is middle-aged men. And what we need is an emotional language when we're running any kind of organization, to be able to allow people to feel seen and heard. And when they feel seen and heard, burnout drops dramatically. Appreciating your staff 12 or more times a year drops turnover to below 2%.
That's so funny, because remember I say this all the time, Nicola, I had such a big fucking problem that the CEO where I worked directly under her never once said thank you to me, not once. And I don't know why. I'm not someone who wants accolades, but it just really rubbed me the wrong way.
Oh,
and it just she barely acknowledged my presence.
We need women to lead like women, not women who tokenly lead like men. I want you to be in touch with your ability to be kind and emotional and connected, and to have snacks, and to be able to say, here's what I love about you, Gina. Right? Charcuterie.
But I don't think that American business really wants that authentic self. They say they want it, but they don't want it.
So then look at the rates of burnout, right? Then look at the rates of suicide. We are now stepping into a mental health crisis. They better fucking figure it out. And the more successful businesses, when you understand this, when you can orchestrate as an entrepreneur, a company or a group of people that understand this, you will be wildly successful. Because we're stepping into a place very quickly where you can't tokenize people into being great anymore. I'm going to give you a bonus. I'm going to, behaviorally modify you. That only works for so long. You need to be acknowledged. And this working from home bullshit needs to be absolutely addressed, because you can only do so much in isolation for so long. Now, is hybrid environments working? Yes. But if you have a very uplifting, connected team, what that does to you in a workplace environment, if you come into a workplace where you've seen and heard and there's joy, you go home a remarkably better human. than if I were to say to you, you need to work in your basement and do all those things. I'm not going to turn my camera on because I don't want people to see me because this is a privacy violation. You know, this is bullshit anyways, and I don't even know what everybody else is doing. That's the quickest way to kill innovation and creativity.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And I think Gina had that on her team at our toxic workplace, where she would have these team meetings because, you know, globally remote, right? And she would have these team meetings, and I don't even, please, I'm sure there's like 2 people there that you wouldn't even know what they look like.
I wouldn't. If I passed by them, I wouldn't know. I would not even know because they like never put their.
So why do I want to work hard for you? Why do I want to work hard for you if you don't even have the audacity to turn your camera on and say, hey, oh my gosh, you guys, I'm working in my office today. You might see my kid come in and out. But here's what I'm so jacked about is this project. Gina, you were talking about this the other day on the meeting, and Nicola. Okay, so tell me if I'm losing my mind, but I feel like this would be amazing. What do you guys think about that? So the ability to make eye contact is one of the most powerful things on the planet. And even if it's through camera, I will take it because it changes the neurochemistry. The oxytocin, the dopamine increases. Now, if we could be in the same place doing this podcast, we would have a remarkably
How fun would that be? Oh my God.
Right.
We're all going to New Zealand.
Yeah, done. But technological advances allows us to do this. So listen, technology isn't the problem. It's how we use it that is the issue.
Yeah.
And the less competent we feel, the more we tend to isolate ourselves from other people. Right? If I'm confident, it's a circular issue. Then I'm spending more time with people. I'm having more of those important conversations. I'm sussing out, what did you mean by that? I've been thinking about that a lot more. Like, do you really think I fucked that up? Oh God, sorry. I'm so glad you asked me that because, you know, when we were in that meeting, I got that note. Did you remember what this happened? And I was worried about this. And so I made this comment and I didn't get to follow up with you, right? We have that ability to unpack so much more of that when cameras are on or we're in the same room. You just can't replicate that on a text or an email. You can't.
You can't. And the tonality as well. I feel like, you know, I think when you are reading someone's facial expressions, and I know that Gina, you had this quite a bit, right? Is when you're reading someone's facial expressions, you can see the tonality that's coming with those facial expressions versus an email where it's super fluffed and it just feels condescending because it's like, well, you're just kind of floofing this because, you know, you're stroking your own face.
And there was always like, you know, like if I were to be like, oh my God, this so-and-so is like getting on my last nerve today. If I said that in like a Slack, you'd be like, what a bitch. But like, if I said it in real life and I was like, oh my God, I love her, but she's getting on my last nerve, like huge difference, So like I was vilified for like instant messaging and emailing in the exact same way I talk because there was no human connection. So I was billed as being too assertive, rude, boppity, like all these things, you know? So
the things you're not. And I think
I can be, but not to the point where they were taking it. Yeah. So.
And then that ability then to want to give your best self to a team like that.
I stopped. I was like, fuck this shit. I was like, these people all suck.
You guys, can I tell you, that's why I wrote this. Like, that's truly why I wrote this, because it is so many people out there just wanting to contribute and feel seen in any particular organization. And that is life-saving when we can do that for people. And when we understand that everybody wants that and are better because of that, my gosh, how do we do that is the question. And then the third thing is, what happens when we lose our way? What happens when we fall off? What happens when we feel like pieces of shit again? We need a roadmap back. Not just this is how you do it. Okay, everybody's great. We're all back in the game. Nobody's happy. Nobody's happy all the time. Who the fuck's happy? I mean, we say this, we want this for our children.
Actually, we came from a company that's happy all the time.
All the time. Every moment of the day. Don't you tell us that you're sad.
Yeah.
So bad. Because like there's no bad emotions, right?
No, there was no bad emotions. You couldn't feel what you could state feedback, but it had to be positive feedback.
No, Jody's saying like there's
no negative emotions.
There's no emotion that's bad. All emotions are good.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's not the positivity.
Sorry. I'm
that
just
any emotion you bring to the table as your authentic self is good.
Yes, I agree with that.
Because here's the issue. Anxiety and depression will not kill you. They're just emotions. They don't have the ability to be like, but not talking about them might.
Yes.
And if there's no place to put it somewhere, we're so scared all the time of people being disappointed or critical. And part of that question is, how do we invite that? Tell me more. What's the hardest part? What am I missing?
Tell me more. If I'm feeling anxious about how I suck at my life, don't tell me more. Don't tell me anymore. Just stop talking to me.
But that's how we feed anxiety. Right. And my kids say this to me all the time. Evan came in, he's 10, and he came into our room on Friday night and he's like, Mom, I'm so anxious right now. I can't even sleep. And I said, honey, tell me what you're anxious about. He's like, I can't. I don't want to say it out loud. And I said, that's how anxiety wins, is if you can't tell me what you're anxious about. He's like, Mom, I'm scared about dying. And he said, I can't even believe I said this word, dying. And I was like, there you go. Let's say it. It's just a word. Hey, all of us get to that point. One time I said, what are you scared about dying? What if I live by what if I don't see anybody? What if I never see you again? Let's talk about that. Right. There's so many people that have talked about this. When you name it, you tame it. And I love that. Because so much of the time, words and emotions have so much power because we keep them in isolation. But if we have a team, an organization, a relationship where there's safety to be able to sort of navigate into some of those scary things, then we all really understand. I had a session today with somebody, so I still have a practice here. And we talked about,
are you doing like all the things? Are you just the hypocrite of the day where you're like, I'm doing all these things?
No, and I'm also a fucking disaster. I don't know about this, but I think what's interesting about this process is, he was just talking about some of the worst things. Like, what if I, as a police officer, what if I hurt people? What if I, like, the worst thing in the world is, he said in the first interaction with his child, his baby, he's like, he had started having thoughts like, what if I'm a child molester? And that is such a common reaction when you are a common anxiety around people who have to care for children or become parents for the first time. They often are thinking the worst. That's what anxiety does, is it makes you navigate all these things. I'm like, how are you supposed to check that with anybody? Hi, I'm a child psychologist wondering if I'm a child molester. Now, the question about that is, you have to name it to tame it. Let's explore that. And if it's causing you significant distress, oftentimes there's an anxiety component to that we've got to talk about, right? What is the evidence? What do we need to do? Let's explore that. But you understand, our anxieties work on the most vulnerable parts of us. And
that's true.
Oftentimes it keeps us quiet, because we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to tell anybody. And this happens in business all the time, right? We don't want to assume that we're not doing this well, or that everybody else kind of seems to have their shit together. And one of the things that I think is most debilitating in this process is the comparison of social media. We have readily available access to look at how everybody else is fucking killing it.
My brain is like mush right now, because this is just like so much information, and like
it's all like, I feel like it's all very pertinent to you.
No, I mean, it's just like really random timing. No, but it's like we have anxiety thoughts, we have social media. I'm like, oh my God, like I feel like I'm like ping pong, like one of those tennis ball machines is like malfunctioning and like hitting me in the face. I'm like, oh my God, that too. Oh my God, I have to get off social media. Oh my God, I have to value myself. I'm like, I'm still stuck on the thing about the cop thinking he's a pedophile. Like, I can't.
Oh God.
Oh my God.
Like, I'm just like, it's just all so good, but I'm just like, my brain is like having a hard time catching up to where we actually are. Wait, I am still stuck on the cop thinking he's a pedophile. Can we revisit that? Where'd that come from? I was still stuck on something else.
Our biggest worries in this life often come when we worry that we are not good people, that we have hurt people, or that we have done bad things, that we have the potential to be horrific humans. And oftentimes we stay stuck in our thoughts around that. Mm-hmm. And our ability to sort of say those things, wonder out loud, is the scariest thing on the planet. But here's the thing, I'll tell you this again, emotions will not kill you. Not talking about them might. Because then we start to get stuck in this place, right? There's this particular person, I can tell you, as a patient of mine, is one of the finest human beings on the planet, right? Has done remarkable things in their lifetime. And when you hear the inner workings of people, this is such a privilege for me as a psychologist. When you hear the stories that people carry about themselves, the worries that they have about themselves, there's in no way is this true for this particular human, right?
No, but like, where do those weird thoughts come from? See, now I'm on something different.
No, you're not. This is the same line, right? Where do they come from? It's because oftentimes we end up stuck in our own heads. And the narratives that we have about, the stories that we keep in our bones as children, the expectations that our parents have had of us, our interactions with our siblings, curiosity, what we're supposed to do and supposed to be and supposed to think, how we identify, any of those things have been so scripted, and we're in one generation of really questioning some of those things. But we often wonder, are we the worst parts of those things? And when you don't have anywhere to put it, my goodness, it eats you from the inside out. Either this episode is going to be the best you've ever done, or people are going to shut this off after 2 seconds and be like, okay,
what the shit just unfolded?
There is a trio of women. But here's the thing that I think about is I think there's so much about our stories that we never had permission to sort of explore or talk about for fear of retribution. And I noticed this in my children. I have so much more hope for the next generation than I ever have before, because the questions and the conversations that we have around the dinner table would not have been even remotely safe.
Anyway, we totally digress. But yeah, I think you're right. I think people are either going to be like, what are these 3 weird bitches talking about? Or this is hot shit.
But you know what? I'm putting my money on the fact that I think it's hot shit. And I'll tell you why. Because we're talking about something that no one else is fucking talking about. Because we've got 3 women here, all of which are powerhouses. Like, let's just call us what we are. We're fucking powerhouses. And we don't talk about the shit show that is going on in the background. And we're not talking about the shit show up top.
Well, you guys got to see the shit show. I was crying like a breastfeeding baby.
You regressed to 5. It was beautiful. We watched you, and look at you now grow up. You shed your sweater.
You're back in the game. You're like, you are just in it. You're back.
Well, I calmed myself down. I regulated, Jody. I regulated.
Look at this. Like, if anybody could watch the video of this podcast, this would be amazing, because in real time, you will see Gina just absolutely morph throughout. This is like a therapy. Yeah, no, I think this is actually this is gold, actually. I couldn't have orchestrated this any better. I agree.
Me either, because like you literally, Jody, you're annoying because you just started talking and you were like talking about everything that I was just talking about, Nicola. And I was like, oh my God, what the fuck? Why is my life so weird? And then that's why I started crying.
You're annoying.
You nailed everything.
You make me feel seen, okay? You bitch.
No, you're so fucking
talk about things that don't make sense to me.
No, but I mean, like,
I'm just gonna close my eyes.
This weird person I've never met ever, like, in my head, speaking the words I just spoke to Nicola. Like, what the fuck is going on? This is annoying.
Yeah, I know. I got it. And I think it's because, you know what? Here's the thing, Gina. I think it's such a universal experience, and not to minimize at all what it's like to be in your place in this moment. But I think what we don't recognize as women is that we are all there so much. And maybe even just not even as women, but as humans, right? We're stuck in this place of, am I enough? Why don't people understand this? Why do people think I'm like this? Why are they questioning my character? Because in my own head, my intentions are always so much better than they fucking appear to be. And why would you judge me like that? And so I think we often feel like that so much. And when we start to articulate it, right, it is that ability. Here's the interesting thing. A kid said this to me one time in a locked psychiatric inpatient unit. She said, don't you know that MAD is just SAD's bodyguard?
Oh. And where are all of these kids coming from? I feel like you're lying to us because they have all these great sayings.
Yeah, where are these
children? Where kids are the most brilliant. She was locked up, and it was interesting because I struggled with her. She hit and kicked and bit, and she ran, and I tackled her on the fucking freeway, and came back in, and she was just like, we had her in a secure room, and I was sitting there with her, and I was like, oh my, what am I missing? And she just said to me, and she didn't say a lot because I missed most of the assessment. Like, I didn't get it right with her. She said, don't you know that MAD is SAD's bodyguard? And I was like, what? And that's always she would say to me. And she probably learned it in therapy of some kind, but I later on reflecting on her story, I was like, that's right. I've never met a mad that wasn't sad, because it is so much easier to be mad. You know what? Fuck you. Versus that cut me to the core.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that that's part of our job sometimes. If you can be a really good leader, if you can turn somebody's mad to sad, then you're getting somewhere.
Okay.
And
so how do we do that?
The simple word, if we were to take this to one place, it is acknowledgement. If I were to say to Gina, here's what I love about what you brought to this company, right? I love this work ethic. I love this project. You fucking crushed it, right? Help me understand why on Slack channels, there's so much disconnect with our team. What am I missing here? And you could be like, well, and again, you would tell me this. I hate Slack. I feel
do.
like
I actually do in real life.
Well,
and
so
so
do
does
I.
Nicola now.
Right. But if I were to ask you that as a leader, and I'd be like, okay, this is not working for our team, right? I can't have a woman from the Bronx trying to communicate because you are so direct and clear, and it comes off like you're not a team player. And I don't think that's who you are. I think
that
you're
is
the
not
fucking,
who I am.
I
You
know.
nailed it. Can you get out of my head? You dumb bitch. Come on.
If I were to say to you, I know how much passion you have for this team. I want this team to know it too. I want everybody to see how much you care. So Slack for this project, for this community, done. Here's how we're going to communicate with each other. We're all going to come together. I need everybody in the office so that we can meet face to face. We're going to have some charcuterie, and we're going to talk a little bit about our dreams for this little team. Okay. Because Gina, I need them to see you. You are one of the most brilliant women I've ever had in this team, and I can't have you being misunderstood in this way.
But that's true, because I shine in real life, like behind, like even in my pictures, I look like garbage. Like I'm always like one eye, like, but in real life, it's like a totally different story. Like my whole life, people are like, you look so different than your pictures. Like you look cute in your pictures, but you're so pretty in person. And I'm like, I know, because my pictures, I'm like this half the time. Right. So it's like, but it's like, you know, it's an, what's the word I'm looking for? My brain is so fried. It's like the same thing. It's an allegory kind of, you know, it's like to my personality. Right. It's like, I'm not photogenic, but I am kind of cute in real life. So it's like the same thing. Yeah.
And I think it's so much about like, how hard is that to be stuck in your own head when you know to the core of you who you are and what you bring to the table, but the perception that often gets perpetuated is you're not.
That's what happened where Nicola and I met, because I knew I was doing a really fucking good job. I knew what I was doing, and same for Nicola. But I kept getting told, "You're mean. You're a bulldozer. You're a bitch. You make us all feel stupid." And I'm like, well, if you feel a certain way, you might want to look in the mirror. Some of them were actually stupid, but you know, like you're paying me for my experience. I'm sorry if I make you feel stupid. Go read a book. Heard of Google?
And the issue about that is, right, you just want to be understood for what you bring to the table, right? And the truth is, there are people there who also felt unseen, right? Who also could feel in any meeting that, you know, we would walk over them, or we wouldn't honor their ideas, or we wouldn't do those kind of things, right? So it's like, could I be better at that? Fucking rights, I could be, right?
Yeah, and
if
I
get out of my own head,
I could have been.
So how do we, if I would have said to you, let's get in the same room, I want you to actually learn a little bit about Cindy, because I got to tell you, I mean, she is not, her verbal ability to express her ideas is really shitty, but I'll tell you, I've watched her construct some things and draw out her ideas. She's fucking killing it. So let's get in the same room, and I want to see what she can do. And I want your thoughts on her, right? Can you imagine? Right? Then we actually want to come to the office. We want to be there. We want to build ideas. We want to do those things. Now, is there a time and place where certain people don't fit? Fucking rights. Right. And I reserve the right as a leader to be able to say, this isn't a fit. You need to do your work, whatever that deal is in this process. Right. Because this isn't just like touchy feely, everything's goes, we're all going to fucking kumbaya. There is take charge moments. But I think often what we miss is that we want diversity on our team to be able to offer different things, right? And when you can sort of recognize those things, if we're all alike and we're all great, like, I mean, that's the scariest thing on the planet. But I think it's this idea of like, people are hard to hate close up.
Yes. Oh my God, I love that. Ew, you with all your little sayings.
I know. You know what? These are going to be like all the social media posts. We're just going to have like a saying.
Ew.
Jody is amazing. Jody is Jody.
Get out of my mind, Jody. Jody.
You too.
You just fucked up my entire serotonin levels in good ways.
Oh, I'm so glad, honey. I feel like you're going to have a really good rest of your day. really confident about that. I think you're actually going to finally step back into the best parts of yourself, and it's really overdue.
So where can we get your book? I want an autographed book.
Oh my gosh, I would love to autograph your book. I will send
Can you autograph it to the 43-year-old who is breastfed until she was 5?
Yes,
that's like the ongoing theme for the whole thing.
That's now how we'll know each other if we ever get to meet.
I had Onion Story. You've got breastfeeding.
Yeah, I mean, all right. Well, I'm gonna go relieve the nanny, but this has been amazing, and I feel both filled up and also like it's just been weird, like good weird, because Jody like just weird, like there was something weird going on.
Oh, you needed to be here. I needed to be here. So thank you so much for having me. It was such an honor. I needed this conversation too.
Tell us where we can find you, where our listeners can find you. Do not watch this podcast because I cry half the time.
Oh, you're amazing. It's drjodycarrington.com is where the website is, and the books are all over Indigo and Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all of those places. So buy it for your organization, send it to your girlfriends. It will, I hope it'll change your world.
I think it will. I think this conversation specifically went a different direction to what I think we originally anticipated.
Yeah, but it was amazing.
But I feel
I don't think that was our plan, Nicola. Remember we had a plan on the side of the road? Remember that plan that we made one time?
We made a plan. We had a plan in place. But I think
we just didn't talk Nina.
Oh, you know what? It just took a left turn, and I'm comfortable with the left
We're
turn.
We're okay with
took.
that. We like good left turns.
You have to, the universe tells us where we need to be. So we just let it happen, and it was perfect.
For sure.
All right.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Jody, and good luck with your book tour.
Yes, good luck.
Thank you for joining us today. If you would like to share your story, we would love to hear from you.
Also, leaving a review helps us create more content because it shows us there's an interest in this topic.
For those of our listeners who do better with reading, we have closed caption available on YouTube.
See you next week, same time and same place.